Hi, everybody. I am my mind is blown, and it's fascinating what I'm witnessing with regards to how we think as humans, as a community, and as a society at large. I am just gobsmacked at how we have been trained not to think our own thoughts or to call ourselves down for our own thoughts. I've heard so many people say, I know this sounds like a conspiracy theory, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think something's going on here. They are seeing it with their own eyes. This has been an extraordinary social engineering job by the control group. Bravo. You guys have done an amazing job. Good for you. Good for you. You know what? Honest to goodness. You had a plan. You implemented it. You executed it. It was a good plan. It was effective. It was efficient. And it worked. It worked on some people. What you did is you created these labels and these terms to classify certain ways of thinking so that people, when they start thinking these ways, call themselves down from thinking completely and perfectly logically. Because they're literally afraid of what happens inside of their own mind. Serious to God. That is, it's happening only inside of your mind, right? It's private. It should be quiet. It should be personal and confidential. But people are actually afraid of thinking certain things. Think about the ramifications of that. Really think about it. Unless you're afraid to. But really consider the power. It's the power, honestly, it's weaponization of the human spirit. Why do I say that? Because humans, we do naturally love. The majority of us naturally love. And whether we want to admit it or not, we are a hive. That's just all there is to it. That can be seen in the biometric fields. And it is a fact. It can be proven. We are a hive. And because we are a hive, we operate deeply from our heart space. We love people. We desire connections. We desire camaraderie. We desire to be accepted. That's many reasons. We desire to be accepted because we are social creatures and we are a hive. And we also desire to be accepted because when you are rejected, your life sucks. How many people... Okay, so I watched, I know I'm late to this, but I watched the Ghostbusters movie, the most recent one. I don't remember what it's called, but the most recent one. And part of it was Igor had moved out to, I don't know, Oklahoma or somewhere, and he had himself a big farm, and he was preparing to catch this God that's going to wake up and take over humanity, this huge spirit, this electromagnetic entity who lived in the electromagnetic fields. Okay. And he was out there doing the work, creating the infrastructure to collect this frequency funk and lock it away from humanity. And everyone in the town called him the dirt farmer. Oh, he's out there farming dirt. Oh, he's crazy. His child in the movie had believed that her father was just batshit crazy and that he didn't love his family and that he ran out to be a crazy dirt farmer. And which dirt farmer meaning he seemed to be always farming, but nothing ever grew and there were no plants. It was all dirt. But anyway, A lot of the movie was based around people calling him crazy, is my point. And he had to be bold, like we are, in order to say, you know what, I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I'm right. I'm right. But that's very difficult to do. And in order for him to stand in his truth, I know it's just a movie, but it's a principle that I'm describing. In order for him to stand in his truth, he had to be prepared to lose his position in society. In order for him to think a divergent thought and operate in divergent ways, he had to sacrifice his position within society. And that's why people are afraid to be divergent. And that is because of the jam up social engineering job that has been done on society. Now, that's not to say that every society isn't like this, whether they have a media like ours or not. I would imagine that tribal societies are similar in that if there's someone in the tribe that tries to act a little bit different than the others, they may get ridiculed or rejected. And that goes back to the hive mentality of humanity. But we have come to a place where we critique and criticize and audit our own thoughts for acceptable social thoughts. So if I'm thinking something that other people might think is weird or crazy, then I better not be thinking that. And I believe that has happened in this particular society, in this particular cycle, because humanity, we run in cycles. That's what all these leftover structures are, and all these other places, all these buildings and this architecture. People say it was a mud flood. It might have been a mud flood. That maybe they did a mud flood to create the reset. But societies reset, and they get placed back here in this realm, in these places, in order to run a different version of society using different variables so they reset the map and they put a new society in there, and they basically start it from air quotes scratch. And then they see what happens when you have this and that variable, or this or that design. And so this particular cycle that we're in right now has been run the way that it has been, with a media god, with a government god. And I say that somewhat metaphorically, but really, it really is not a metaphor. Humans, through collective attention, create thought forms, and these thought forms they have an electromagnetic substance, and that substance then affects everything that it touches. So regardless of which came first, the chicken or the egg, at this point we have lowercase g electromagnetic gods operating in the frequency fields right outside of what we can see. And they are feeding, and they are full now to the point of exploding. It has become gluttonous. These gods have become gluttonous, and they're not thinking straight, and I don't know that gods think, but they're not operating in any kind of a reasonable way. They're just trying to consume. And then there are humans who are serving these gods, serving up the energetic sacrifices. And then, of course, we know that there are others who serve up physical sacrifices as well to these gods who live in these fields. And so the function of the societal structure is to command the thoughts, and therefore the creative power, the power of the consciousness of the human being, because we still have God inside of us, meaning we still carry light. We still have creation power because we have not surrendered our connection to the divine. And that actually also happens in the fields around you. It's a geometric structure that where you are, it's basically like the toys where the child puts a triangle shaped toy inside of a triangle shaped hole and a square shaped toy inside of a square shaped hole. Okay. We have a complex crystalline structure to our fields that was given to us by our Creator, whoever that is, whatever you call that, whatever name you have for that. So that allows us to continue to be connected to our source, which allows us the benefits of being connected to the Creator of the realm. We have kept ours. I assume if you're listening, you have, because I doubt anyone who hadn't would even hear my voice right now. There's going to be a couple dozen of you maximum probably that even hears this. And I love you, by the way. I freaking love you. But we have maintained our sacred geometric structure. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I had to take that call. I think where I was is that we have not surrendered that. And I can get into how you surrender that. But then the control group, whoever these people are, whatever you believe that they are, and whoever you believe that they serve, they have basically surrendered their beautiful crystalline structure and disconnected from source and now serve a God with a less sacred geometric structure, like a cube, for instance. And that is representative of their sacrificing of their connection to the divine and their now connection to whatever this entity is, whatever you believe it is. But the point of that being the disconnection from the divine. Now, some people may say the divine isn't divine. Some people may think that the divine is an angry, vengeful God. And I can see why they would think that, because the Christian God has been presented that way. And who would want to serve a God like that, who is so controlling that you aren't allowed to even have certain thoughts? Because if you have certain thoughts, you will be punished. You're not allowed to even want things, because if you covet them, you've broken a commandment. So I can understand why some people would not want to be connected to a God that is represented that way. However, I don't believe my Creator is anything like that. There is a God that is like that, and these people had interactions with that God, but that God is not my God. And make no mistake, there are many gods. This just needs to be understood and accepted. There are many, many gods, and we need to be better about defining what a God is. And that is something that operates outside of the physical through the electromagnetic fields that then affects the electrical systems inside of the humans and manipulates from the outside in and feeds on human energy and assists or destroys from their fields, depending on the kind of God that they are, depending on the frequency you're running and how you interact with it. So they have surrendered their beautiful fingerprint, and they've surrendered it. Now they are represented by a cube, and this gives them power and control here, but only here, only in this realm. So they act like they own and run this bitch, and really they do, because this is their territory. They are the gods of the third dimension. They are the gods of this realm, of this map that we're running right now. Realm, R-E-A-L-M. For some reason, when I say that, I don't think I say it. It sounds weird, but anyway, they are this really is we're the marauders, really, because this is their space. And that's why they have perfected death to birth consciousness transfer. I think that many of them cannot take a chance of getting caught in the frequency fence, in the trap. They cannot take the chance of getting caught in the trap by dying a normal, natural death. So I think that many of them operate within this consciousness transfer, death to birth consciousness transfer, or consciousness transfer from one avatar to another. And that would be why some of these celebrities look the way that they do now. They look different because they are inside of a different avatar now. Something has happened to their older avatars, their original avatar. And I think that that is also how they have kept control over this realm for thousands of years, because they don't die and forget in between lives. They have figured out how to preserve the knowledge from each generation. They preserve it. And again, that's not to say that people aren't born into these families and there aren't new babies. Of course there are. But they, again, death to birth consciousness transfer. Yes, they could very well be born to a family and born as a baby, and they may very well be allowed to operate as a baby before the consciousness transfer is done. And I would imagine that's also why you've got stories of wealthy people in these families, going crazy or, killing themselves, jumping off of buildings, doing things like that, because it's very difficult, to run. I would imagine it'd be extremely difficult to be in one of those families, to be honest, and to carry that kind of weight. So anyway, they keep all of the information, the truth, hidden in very, very tight circles, because they can't have all of us knowing the truth about who we are and where we are and how this place operates. So the bottom line is they have now, and probably always have, tried to infringe on even what you think. And we have surrendered our ability to freely pontificate, even within ourselves, because we're afraid that we are going to become this or that negative label that we have heard placed on people who think in independent and divergent ways. And obviously, this is part of our problem. And I've gotten to where I'm not as angry anymore about the situation. It's like I've gone through the stages of grief, and now I'm at acceptance to a certain degree, but only for the purposes of my own mental health. I'm just accepting that this is the situation. And now I'm accepting that this is the situation without an anger vibration attached to it. And okay, now what do I do next? Now that I know that this is the situation, like I said earlier, okay, well played, good for you. You know what? You were a worthy opponent, but you cross the line when you start exerting your will over my free will. And I have really questioned, and this will be where I'll stop talking in a minute after I get through the free will thing. I've really agonized over, do we really truly have free will? I would say that the answer is no. And why do I think that? Do we, from its most macro perspective, have free will? Yes. Just like from the most macro perspective, we are all one. I am you, you are me, I am, we are. That's true from the most macro perspective. However, I am not, my point of attention does not exist within the macro right now. Yes, it does, but I'm not operating from that point of attention right now in the macro. I'm operating from an individual and singular point of attention, being the identity that I have at this time, which is Lisa. Lisa operating from the singular and individual point of view perspective does not have free will, because my choices are hidden from me. And when you manipulate and you hide the choices, the options, to me, that is an inversion and an interception of free will. That's where you violate, in my opinion, the laws and rules of the universe. When you tell me out of one side of your mouth that I have free will, but out of the other side of your mouth, you limit my knowledge. To me, I cannot possibly act upon or utilize free will in its wholeness so long as you are lying to me. It is deceptive. So, is it possible that I could, through years and years of study and determination and practice, discern and discover the secrets of my universe, of my realm? It's possible, but it is highly, highly, highly unlikely, because the information is genuinely and truly hidden. And you would have to go to the top of a mountain and find a monk somewhere, or you'd have to get in the basement of the Vatican and go find the books from the library at Alexandria. You'd have to break into a top level, whatever you want to call them, Masons, Rosicrucians, Illuminatis, whatever name you have for those guys, the control group is what I call them. You'd have to go into one of their top secret libraries. I mean, the information exists, but the likelihood of us actually finding it and being able to act on it is nearly nil. It's nearly zero. So for that reason, I reject that we are operating under any kind of a true or authentic form of free will. We are being systematically lied to and destroyed. So I am using my free will to introduce frequencies into the fields that says, unlock the fucking doors. I don't accept this anymore. I reject this. And that's all that I can do at this point with my free will. And I can seek to try to find the truth. And that's what I'm doing. Regarding the control group, what I mean by that, it's almost like they're the beta testers. There's an anime called Sword Art Online. I don't know if I got that right. You guys know how I am. I can't remember 3D Matrix shit. It's hard. But in this show, in the very first episode, they are basically all these people who were playing a video game, like a virtual reality video game. They got trapped inside the game. Sounds familiar. And so after everyone comes to, terms, okay, this is where we are, we're trapped here, blah, 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 they start to talk about things they have to do and ways to get out. And you have to play through several levels to get out. Well, there were beta testers in that game originally who had been playing longer than most of the other players. And they knew more than the other players. And so the newer players start to turn on the beta testers and saying, it's not fair that you guys, go further than we do, because you have more information than we do. And you know more than we do because you've been here longer. And the beta testers, who were at the time still good, or, positive in their thinking and trying to somewhat be cooperative, they said, we wrote all the information down. Everything we know is written in a book. Here's the book. We distributed the books. You decided not to read the book, and that's why you remain ignorant. Because it's not my responsibility to learn the information and teach it to you. I learned it. I put it in a book. Now you read the fucking book and you figure it out based on the information that I've given you. I'm not withholding the information. Here's the book. Read it. Don't read it. But here's the information. We, I think, are in an inverse situation of that, where there are the so-called beta testers, the control group, the people who have the original knowledge and information. They do have it written, but they refuse to allow us access to it. And that's where those of us who can go and enter the Akash and go read the records, that's where we come in, because you can't. Oh, and they have actually hidden things inside the Akash. They have created frequency fences around certain blocks of information inside the Akash. Some of us, we are building codes and trying to get in there as we speak, but yes, yeah, wow. I just saw that. That is fascinating. What a bunch of a-holes. So anyway, let's try not to be afraid of just thinking. Let's practice considering things that seem completely crazy and impossible. We don't have to tell anybody. The power of your thought, the power of your consciousness does affect everything. You don't have to tell anyone what you're thinking or feeling. Just practice allowing yourself to have the thoughts, whatever they are, and explore other possibilities, explore higher possibilities and ways of doing things. Thank you guys for listening to me. I love you.